Thank you. Thank you, PP Kwangjashan. Dr. Suri, I'd like to hand the floor to you. Can you just take over the mic, Dr. Suri?
Sure. Thank you very much. So I would, okay, thank you very much. Perfect. Okay, I'm just gonna do this real quickly. Just bear with me. Standard exit full screen. There you go. All right. So thank you so much for the introduction. It always feels weird to actually hear someone talk about you, but and thank you once again, everybody at the Rotary Club for actually having me here, providing me and giving me the opportunity to actually share. So let's proceed because we only have like 30 minutes. Well, currently, the current situation right now, if we look at it, there's, with all of this COVID, it has impacted and affected not only children, but it also affected their families in the most exceptional way. Kindergarten schools have been closed, social contacts strongly limited, out-of-home leisure time, sports activities canceled. Pretty much there's nothing to life. Right? Parents are asked to support their children with homeschooling while at the same time working from home and managing house chores. That's a lot of work. Beside worrying and anxieties related to COVID-19, the economic situation has worsened with high and rising levels of unemployment in all affected countries. Malaysia is not the only one. It's all over the place. It's all over the country. It's all over the world. It's all affected. Now, because of all of this has put a lot of pressure on children, adolescents, families, which the end result is distress, mental health problems, even aggression and violence. So that's what's going on right now. With all of this pandemic and the COVID restrictions, that's what's happening. All right, so Joe, can we go into the second slide, please? So I'm assuming that I think, and I know that everyone tonight actually agrees that education is one of the key factors in overcoming social and economic inequality. We all agree on that one. The UNESCO Assistant Director General for Education referred to the COVID-19 crisis as an unprecedented educational disruption that poses a real threat to learning continuity. Okay, we look at pandemic containing measures led to school closures in as many as 191 countries. It's impacting over 60% of the world's student population, which is at least 1.5 billion students are kept out of school. Since schools are not able to meet the guidelines set forth by the World Health Organization, governments are reluctant to ease the lockdown. And this has resulted in education entering into the digital scape where we now know as online education, right? It has gained momentum like never before. Government also emphasized the importance of effective distance learning strategies when there are no in-person alternatives. Now, but in order to do that, okay, we know that we need to have a stable internet connection, which is crucial for providing the child with necessary learning materials. Teachers, we need to share visual medias and all kinds of materials to students. And this allows teachers to monitor the process as well. Now, even the wealthiest country in the world, right, thousands of families, especially low-income families, and those living in the rural areas, they do not have broadband internet access. If they do, sometimes it is of poor quality. So therefore, it's hard to be effective and efficient in both teaching and learning when you are having internet connection and instability. It's like, now you see me, now you don't. Now you see me, now you don't. It's driving everybody crazy. In families with school-age children, each of them requires access to a computer. One child, if you have 5 children, they need 5 computers or 5 tablets or 5 smartphones to follow the online learning program in full. Now, what happens if those family comes from the low income family? There's no way, no how they can actually buy all of those gadgets just so that they can actually follow online learning program in full. And that means they will be falling behind. And I know from my own witness, I know that, RCJB had actually did an excellent job in donating tablets and I think it was computer to one of the organization that was months back, I think, or was it late last year, or was it earlier this year? I can't really remember. I can't remember when is it anymore. All I know is almost the end of the year. I just want to get it over with. So this is another problem for parents to tackle, either by they have to splash out on multiple devices, or they have to make sure that the children share the available device. Now, what happens if you have children that have classes at the same time and they're sharing devices? So one person has to go and the other, what happens to the other child, right? So that makes it very difficult. So needless to say, neither option is appealing to low income families. So now when we're talking about low income and internet and online learning, these children are being, fall behind. Now, how about those children with special needs? Those children with disabilities, with learning disorders, they can't go for therapy. They can't go to therapy center. They can't go for their early intervention program, and they're at home, stuck at home with parents and other siblings who are of school age. And parents, most of the time, parents do not have the knowledge or skills or, sometimes even patience to actually, manage and handle and deal with their children with disabilities or learning disorders. So that makes it very difficult. So the question is that, it's great to have all of these platform, online program, online learning and everything. It's great, it's accessible nowadays. You can learn pretty much anything that you want. But in terms of like academic learning in schools and everything, can all of these off-the-shelf and custom e-learning solutions become the silver bullet against educational inequality? That's the question here, right? Okay, so educators, parents, we know because we can see it. So maybe we are aware, whether we're not aware, but somehow we know because we even feel the same thing that, or maybe slightly more, what the students are feeling firsthand. What the students are feeling firsthand is the high cost of this prolonged period of remote learning, all right, from rising rates of depression and anxiety to the loss of learning, loss of motivation, loss of direction, loss of sense of purpose in life. It's a lot of things that's been, that's happening, that it's ongoing, and they are actually having to deal and live with it, but not having the platform to actually voice out or express or even get any kind of help. Okay, so can we go into the next slide, please, Joe? All right, so now for a very long time, we have been embarrassed to admit when our children need emotional or psychiatric help. We are worried that the stigma associated with these problems would be detrimental to their future. And we also have to remember that we live in a safe face society. So a lot of things are taboo, a lot of things are associated to stigma, a lot of things are just not something that they want to talk about, or openly or to someone. So, but we need to start talking about this. We need to start addressing about this because, mental health is a way of describing social and emotional well-being. A good mental health is key to healthy development. If you don't have good mental health, you have nothing. You can have all of the money in the world. You can have all of the money in Swiss bank account, wherever it is. But if you do not have good mental health, what is use of that money? It's key to healthy development. It's key to strong relationships and resilience. Okay, in order to be resilient, to face all adversity, you need to have a solid mental health. Okay, it plays an important part of healthy child development. It helps children build positive social skills, emotional behavior, thinking, and even communication skills. Just mental health alone. Okay, it also lays the foundation for better mental health and well-being later in life, because if we don't have good mental health today, and most likely we're not going to have good mental health later. Okay, so now, besides mental health, good physical health is also important because it's a link to your mental health. It comes hand in hand. See, the thing is that when we are active, right, when we get our children, we need to get our children to be, not only children, even us, we need to be active, we need to stay healthy so that we have more energy, we can feel confident, we can manage all stress, and it helps us to sleep better, right? Remember a few months back when I gave a talk about happy chemicals, you know, the serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, and all of that. So those are the things, when you have good physical health, that means you are active, you know, you can do Tai Chi, you can do Qigong, you can go run around, play in the playground for 60 minutes a day. All of that will help your brain to release the, you know, happy chemicals. So when you feel happy, of course, you're going to be happier mentally. So that's why physical health and mental health comes together. It's not just one and two. It's like pants and clothes. You won't be wearing your top without your pants, right? So you have to wear it both together to make it complete. And that's how it should be when it comes to mental health. Now, it can have a profound impact on children's skill development, and that influences the academic performance and even a long-term life outcomes. Again, this is just mental health and nothing else. Now, it is normal for children to feel down, you know, cranky sometimes, or they think negatively, but it's normal for them to somehow, you know, sometimes show signs of anxiety, worries, and even fear. This is part of healthy development and learning to manage emotions. When they don't have any of these feelings, then that's a concern. Okay, so it is normal for them to feel that way. But we need to know that childhood depression is more than just, oh, I'm feeling so sad. Oh, I'm feeling blue. Oh, I'm feeling so low. It affects the way they think. It affects their mood. It affects their behavior. Now, behavior is a form of communication. So that means what they're telling you, that something is not right. I'm not feeling too good. I'm not feeling it, you know? So children experience depression often feel negative, just like us, just like adults, the same way. You know, they will feel negative about themselves. They will feel negative about the whole situation. They might even feel negative about the future. And right now, what I'm always hearing from children is like, what's the point? What's the point of going to school? What's the point of just thinking about going to college or university? Because they don't see, you know, they don't have faith in the future anymore. That tells me that they are going through some kind of anxiety and worry because they're thinking about their future. That's worry right there. You know, worry and fear are different forms of anxiety. You know, fear usually happens in the present, right? For example, like if someone who's afraid of spider, it's, you know, they have a fear of arachnophobia. But when you worry, it usually happens when they think about the past or they think about the future situation. That's what it is. Okay, fear is about present, worry is about past or future. So, you know, all of this anxiety, lack of peer contact, social isolation, lockdown, reduce opportunities for stress regulation and main concerns. And especially when there's no sports, they can't even go out there and play. They can't even go to the, you know, playground. They can't even go probably ride the bicycle around the neighborhood without being asked, like, you know, you need to get back in because we're on lockdown and social isolation and all of that. So another main threat is that there's an increased risk for parental. Parents, we carry the burden as well. We feel it because remember, we are filling in everybody's job under one roof. And, perhaps for some women, it might be the first time ever they are actually a stay-at-home full-time mom working career as well. Because they have to be at home, you have to do the housework, you have to take care of the kids, you have to be, some parents caught themselves suddenly becoming the children's tutor, private tutoring. It's like I'm teaching my own kids, and some of them may not have the skills or even knowledge to actually teach their children with, their schooling and their homework and all of that. So there's another threat, which is there's an increased risk for parental mental illness as well. Domestic violence and even child maltreatment. Because all of the stress is all built up. So there's a lot of things going on behind closed door that a lot of times, many of us probably don't even hear or even see it. I get to see all of that. I get to hear it because I get all of my clients, I get my students, and I get to talk to them. So I'm very much exposed to that. So in fact, different anxieties often developed at different stages development. Okay, children, they experience all sorts of emotions. Like I said, this is part of growing up. Emotions makes us human. We need to have that. It's good. A little bit of fear is good. A little bit of disappointment is good. Sadness, anxiety, anger, joy, hope, betrayal, all of that is part of emotion, and it is part of growing up. It is normal. Everyone, children, adults, old, we all experience all of that. Whereas in terms of adolescent, it's a riskier period for them right now for mental health problems. Why an adolescent is at a higher risk of developing mental health problems is because teenagers are going through many changes, 15 or 13, all the way up to like 16, 17, 18. I would say probably around 16 years old. Right, that's the adolescent period, which is like the toughest for any parents to go through. All right. So why is it that they are in a higher risk, category for mental health? Is because they're going through many changes, puberty, hormones, body changes, and everything. And then the challenges happen in such a short period of time, just like that. And it almost makes it very difficult for them to actually navigate or feel, because like I said, it happens really fast. I think a lot of parents would know. You would notice that your boy, especially in terms of boy, one day you'll see them at like probably 5 feet tall, and the next day, he goes to sleep at night. The next day when he wakes up, suddenly he goes up to like 6 feet, and you're like, whoa, what happened overnight? Because everything happens in such a short period of time. And it's also because teenage brains are still maturing. Okay, they're still developing. The frontal lobe does not fully develop till they are 25. So anything below 25, when they make decisions or anything, it should not be taken seriously, or should really be reviewed, because it's not fully developed. They're probably not making the right decisions yet, or, because in terms of emotional and behavior. So therefore, that's why especially for boys below, certain age, they are involved in a lot of risky behavior because of the hormones, and of course the brain is still maturing, and then the frontal lobe is not fully developed. So now all of that, now when it comes to children and adolescents with special needs, okay, or disadvantages or disabilities, some children, they may already have trauma experiences, already have existing mental health problems, low socioeconomic status. This may be a particularly challenging time for them with all of this pandemic lockdown and everything. Okay, now, even though, like I said, anxiety, fear, and everything is just a part of growing up, it's a part of healthy development. But if you notice that the feeling goes on for a long time without treatment, children can fall behind at school. It can affect their learning and cognitive abilities. It can affect their academic performance and achievement. It can impact on declining of executive functioning and cognitive skills as well. They will lose confidence in themselves and become more withdrawn. Okay, so therefore, it is normal to have a little bit of anxiety and fear, but it is, it should be a concern, and you should take your child in to go see a professional once you start seeing that actually the problem is slightly more, the anxiety and the fear is actually more than it should be. All right. Okay. So Joe, can I have the last one? All right. Thank you. So, okay. Now, even though we know that, this whole current crisis can bring in opportunities for personal growth. I myself have taken up like so many online courses, and I still have a few courses waiting for me to start and finish. I think at one point, I wasn't the only one. I think at one point, a lot of people out there started signing up like crazy for online programs or online courses here and there. It does bring that kind of opportunity, for personal growth, career growth, knowledge, to attain more knowledge and all of that. It also gives the opportunity for family cohesion, because, it's thought like, well, everyone's at home, now you can have family dinner together. Like previously, you can't even have a chance to do that because either the husband comes home late or the husband's out on, on business trip. And all of that. So now is a time where actually they have that opportunity. They can watch movies together, they can do things together, and all of that. So, but the disadvantages may outweigh all of these benefits. Now, this crisis has made it clear that some students are having problems, behavioral problems, mental problems, a lot of problems. And some are being left behind when it comes to learning, while parents are facing tremendous pressure and challenges as they juggle and multitask the new role that they did not sign up for it, but it's just given. Okay, so it's overnight. Everybody has to take on that new role, whether you like it or not. So you have to learn on the job, right? You have to navigate, you have to figure things out. And on top of that, as parents, we have to figure out, we have to put food on the table, we have to pay bills and all of that. So all of this is an add-on challenge and stress. Now, education system leaders, teachers, parents need a broad array of information on their students now in order to begin educational recovery. Because now we are at a phase where actually schools start opening up, they're starting welcoming students back on campus and all of that. So which is a good thing, but even though they're going phase by phase, age by age group, but still it is a good sign that, school is opening up, which is very important. Now, the pandemic forced school leaders and teachers to reach out to their communities in a way that they had never done before. Schools are actually starting to reach out to communities, which is, again, a good thing. And that's how and what we should have been doing for the longest time. It's not a silo thing. It comes to education. It takes a whole village to raise a child. So therefore, we should always work together as community, regardless of whatever condition is. Okay. Now, but the thing is that going back to campus, before students can learn, their well-being, engagement, mental health, and conditions for learning must first be addressed. Because I know right now schools are opening up, they are actually getting ready for, tests and exams and trying to finish up all of the syllabus that they have not finished the past few months or something like that. Okay. It is necessary to address these long-standing inequities borne by a lot of vulnerable students. Now, healthy social emotional development is important because it impacts the whole child. Students with good social emotional skills, they are better at academic performance, their school behavior, better relationship with peers and family, and have fewer mental health issues. When children cope with big emotions or calm themselves down in difficult or emotional situations, they are likely to feel good about themselves. Now, students who have difficulty navigating the social developmental shifts of school and have mental health issues, they are more likely to experience academic underachievement, behavior problems, and even social and emotional difficulties. Now, in addition, poor social skills place students at a heightened risk for bullying, teasing, and social isolation. Okay, as students, they experience social failure, school becomes an aversive place. What's going to happen next? They refuse to go to school. And that's when we're going to go school refusal or school anxiety disorder. Sad. Okay. Now, if social and emotional and mental health challenges go unaddressed and peer problems become more chronic, severe, and the likelihood of serious negative outcomes in adolescence, which includes academic failure and dropout, significantly increases. And dropout, this is very common among high schoolers, high school dropout. Even if the school follows the most carefully structured, evidence-based approach to get the most out of remote learning and improve their teaching going forward, the reality is that many months of learning have already been lost, and trying to catch up with it is almost impossible. It can be done, but it's difficult, especially when the children are not mentally stable, emotionally secure, okay? Because damage has already been done. Even in the best case scenario, students have half a grade level behind. So in order to catch up, many students will need to step up opportunities to accelerate their learning. But can they do that? Do they have the capacity, the mental capacity, the cognitive abilities to actually do that? Right now, with all of these things going on, the mental health, social skills, everything is all affected. Now, while we may not be able to control the virus without an effective vaccine, we should, however, be more prepared to deal with consequences and minimize the risk and prevent further damage. Now, immediately priority is to prevent further learning loss. Of course, parents, teachers, they're all worried about learning loss. We also need to, providing them with the coping mechanism, managing social, emotional, supporting mental health through a combination of bringing students back to school where it is safe to do so, of course, and improve remote learning across the board if it is still happening. Now is the time for school system to prepare post-pandemic strategies, since school is opening up, that helps students to meet their full potential by shifting the focus on their social, emotional, and mental health, rather than administering tests and exams and pushing for academic, trying to finish up the last few topics that need to be covered in the syllabus. That's not what we should be doing. We should be focusing on their social, emotional, and mental health, okay? What are the stresses? The stresses associated with all of this pandemic is the lack of access to school, the loss of routine. Children, they need routine, especially those with special needs, especially those who are on the autism spectrum. They need routine. The loss of social isolation. Children need to have friends. We need to have friends. We need to socialize. Economic hardships, lack of technology. Those low-income children, if they don't go to school, most likely they will not have proper or healthy meals at home. So when they go to school, they look forward, because that's the only place they can actually get to have healthy meals. And there's also loss of drive and motivation, and especially among high school or teenagers, I would say, and a lost sense of purpose, in life. All of these have increased the need for effective social and emotional learning and mindfulness program that can and should be delivered the first few weeks of, when students are back on campus. So going forward, parents and educators, they can, let's aspire to a new paradigm, using what we have learned during this pandemic about human development, child psychology, child development, psychosocial, the need of human interaction. We need that. We are human beings. We need that human interaction. The power of relationship, innovative instructional models, teachers, therapists, support, and community partnerships schools can support their students and become more equitable for all students. So therefore, like I said, my last part here that I would really like to emphasize is that we need to focus on the social, emotional, and mental health rather than pushing and trying to finish up the whole syllabus and then administering tests and exams, because these students are not in a mental state of mind to actually sit for tests and exams. It's going to be more worrying and it's going to cause anxiety for them. All right, so, okay, that's the last part. So I thank you once again very much for your time, to listen to what I have to share today. That's about it. Back to you.
Thank you, Dr. Suri Charles, for the in-depth psychological explanation of childhood and today's Kovitz time. I would like to open the floor. Any questions from members? Anybody would like to ask Dr. Suri? Well, if not, maybe Dr. Suri, I just ask you, since you are actually quite into the child and the mind and so on. In a situation like this, do you normally consult the psychologist or the psychiatrist? What's it?
Okay, so for mental health issues, usually you do consult with psychiatrists. You can do it with psychologists. The only difference is that psychiatrists have the power, they have the power to actually prescribe medication, whereas that's their form of treatment. Whereas psychology, we do not have the power to prescribe medication. However, our form of treatment is actually more into psychotherapy through CBT, DBT, art therapy, music therapy, and all of that. But you can actually see both, at the same time. Usually, a lot of times they would see the psychiatrist to actually talk about the medication, if there's any kind of a side effect, or if it's okay, if it's not okay, if it needs to be changed or increase on dosage or anything like that, and talk about certain issues. But for psychology, when they come see us, it's more about talking about their issues, their inner thoughts, their feelings, and then we kind of guide them on how to navigate through that. And if they have a lot of negative thoughts, so that's where we actually work into switching from negative to something positive thinking, because it manifested through your behavior. So when you have a negative thoughts or negative ideas and things like that, it will manifest into your behavior. So that's how. So yeah, but you can see both. Yeah.
So I suppose it's a first step is your neighborhood psychologist, and then if that doesn't work, you go to see your psychiatrist. I suppose you have to pay more that way for psychiatrists. Any other questions?
No. Hello, Dr. Suri. Good evening.
Yes. Hi, good evening.
Can you hear me, Dr. Suri?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Now, Dr. Suri, now when we talk about these people with disabilities,
after 3 o'clock.
There's double voice there. Maybe there's a radio going on in the background. Can you switch it off? Hello. Yes.
Hello. So can I stop now?
Yes, by all means, please.
Okay. Now, Dr. Suri, even in normal days, we find that people with disabilities they experience a lot of challenges, and whether you're able to cope with it or not, it remains debatable all the time. So now, in the wake of COVID-19, I would say that it hugely affects people with disabilities emotionally, psychologically, or in other words, we say the mental health.
I don't know what's wrong, but
this kind of prolonged educational disruption and the kind of psychological stressors, I would say that it has immense consequence or effect on the learning or mental or physical health, as we say just now. But then my question is, how are you going to make parents aware of such a prolonged effect on learning, mental and physical health. And how are you going to help parents, to sort of, how do they observe the changes and the strategies and whatever approach that they should take, to help their children cope with it. When you talk about the prolonged disruption is something which is, it takes a lot on the people's well-being. So,
Yes.
What are you going to tell the parents what to look into this?
Okay. So of course, well, thank you for the question. And I think that's pretty legit because a lot of parents are not aware of the situation. I know there's a lot of parents out there who still pushes for academic and homework after homework, and they don't realize that that's actually detrimental to a child's mental health. So how I do it is actually I talk to the parents and I get them to understand the situation. And I show them the differences between a healthy mental health and a kind of like, not healthy, unhealthy. So they can actually kind of compare and contrast. I also make sure that, I kind of tell them about the signs and symptoms to look for in terms of mental health, anxiety, depression. What are the signs and symptoms that parents should be aware and keep an eye on it in case if it gets worsened within a certain period of time, that's when they need to actually take the children into and see a professional allied health provider. In terms of the child itself, we also talk, I also talked about the children, to the children as well, because they need to know as well what's happening and why are they feeling the way they are feeling. All of that. So yeah, so we worked on both. We work with the child and then we also work with the parents, because the key thing is that the parents are the one that needs to really understand, not only be aware, but they need to understand and accept the situation. When these three things happen, then only we can talk about the treatment and so forth. Because if they're not receptive of these three things, it's very hard to provide them with any kind of treatment plan, because when they see a psychologist, we will actually send them home with assignment, tasks that they need to do at home for, let's say, a week before they come and see us on our next session. So then when they come back and then I want to know, what did they do? Did they actually practice on that? What are the outcomes, or what are the output, input, and all of that? So yeah, so we work together with the parents as well, especially when the children is, when it's still a minor, under 18 years old. So we need the parents to be, to be in charge and kind of support the children, because it's very important that the child gets that support from the family. So yeah, so we talk to the parents. We need to know, the parents need to know what are the signs and symptoms, what are the long-term effects, what are the short-term effects, and what if you don't do anything, and what if you do something about it, what are the outcomes and all of that. Then they can make a well-informed decision, because coming in to see a psychologist is not an easy thing for, this part of the world. Because like I said, it's always associated to something negative, like, there's something wrong with you, that means you're crazy, which is not, because everybody goes through some kind of mental health at one point, some point of our life. Yeah. So working with the parents.
Any questions? If not, I just move slightly away because it's a bit worrying. You mentioned that the human brain, I think, is mind is developed at about age 25, right?
Yeah,
just
the
now?
Frontal lobe. The frontal lobe.
There's the thinking part, right?
That's the social, emotional, behavior part. And that's why anyone below 25, especially boys, like I said, they are more involved in a risky behavior because the frontal lobe is not fully developed yet. So it has a lot of emotional going on, a lot of behavioral issues and challenges, I would say, and a lot of social, the lacking, not being able to control their emotion, manifesting into behavior, all of that. So yeah, the frontal lobe is responsible for all of that.
Yeah. But,
so don't get married before 25 because you're not stable yet.
we are sort of trusting the fate of the nation to those 18 years old, you know. So a bit worrying. And I don't know which country, I think it was Ireland or somewhere, that when you are 16, you can vote already, you know. So maybe it's something to look into, you know.
But it's also because you have to also understand their social ecology, their social, you know, their social ecology is different than the social ecology here. The environment, the social environment, the education is different, the mentality is different. It's Socratic method of thinking out there. Here, it's the yes ma'am, no ma'am, sir. You know, so out there, the thinking is that they would question why, how, what. Here it's like, oh, okay lah, okay lah. You know, because it's the education system, it's the culture, it's indoctrination. So therefore, whereas in Europe or different parts of the world, the education is so different. You know, it's all about higher order thinking skills. It's about critical thinking skills. It's about analytical thinking skills. It's about problem solving skills. It's okay to question. It's okay to ask. But here, you don't ask, you don't question, you just listen, you just follow, write down your notes. That's it. You memorize the answer, you sit for your exam, you'll get an A, and you'll be considered intelligent. But intelligence is not that. You know, we have multiple intelligence. So here, the way they measure intelligence is by the standardizing test or standardizing exam. That's how they measure intelligence. So if you can't remember, if you're not so, you know, you're not good at writing, but you can actually verbal, you would not pass the test because they need you to still write it down. You know, so yeah, so it's a very different, you know, different social ecology, I would say. You know, here it's so different, over there it's different. Over there, most of the kids are quite mature. They, you know, every summer they would actually work and earn their own living, pay for their, you know, whatever they want. Here, everything is on parents. Can you give me 20 ringgit? Oh, I need 10 ringgit. Oh, I need to buy this. Can you buy that? Everything is relying on the parents. You know, I started working part-time during the summer when I was like 14, you know, ever since. So every summer I will be working. I'll be mowing the lawn, I'll do this, I'll pool cleaning and everything. So it's a different, very different culture, different education system, different social ecology, very different. That's why.
I think we need to call you back again, maybe in a few months' time, to talk about the East and the West cultural differences, and we shall measure, you know, pros and cons. It's quite interesting subject between East and West.
Okay. It'll be an honor. Thank you.